Hello, everybody. You're listening to An Amber a Day, the podcast, and I'm Amber Fisher. I'm a functional nutritionist in San Antonio, Texas, and this podcast is all about nutrition, fertility, functional medicine, autoimmunity, and life, because there's a lot of things that I have to say and give out to you guys. So today is a wonderful day because I'm here with one of my very best friends. This is Gabi Rivera of This is Apollo 11.
Yes.
And she is also a nutritionist like myself. And we have very complementary strengths in that department. We kind of handle different things, but yet we overlap in a lot of ways. So, you know, we call ourselves the Dream Team. And that's what we are.
Do?
Yes,
Wow.
we really do. Okay, so we're excited to be here today. Gabi has been on my podcast before. What did we talk about that time?
The last time we were together, we talked about tricks on eating out.
Oh, that's right.
Right?
Okay, that's right. So so that was back in 2018. That's when I first started this podcast. Mm-hmm. And Gabi and I have been friends for a long time now and been through a lot together. Mm-hmm. And, she was really a big part of my journey this past year when I had my son premature, and she helped me out a lot. So she's a great friend and a great person and a fantastic nutritionist. She's really come into her own over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. So it's been fun to watch her sort of get her wings and fly and like really do what she's like called to do. So I think both of us, our mindsets about nutrition have changed quite a bit in the last 2 years. So if you go back and listen to old podcasts of mine from like 2018, you might find that like I'm a different person. I have different perspectives on things. Because time just kind of changes things and maturity and everything, and the buildup of seeing clients over time has changed my thoughts and opinions on things. Mm-hmm. So Gabi and I both have gotten a lot more, have tried to bring in a much more holistic, well-rounded approach to nutrition than maybe what we were doing before. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like talking about the importance of like self-care and boundaries and mindset and stuff with all this, and the mental aspect of nutrition, which is sometimes not focused on. I think a lot of people who might be listening to this for the first time, what you're expecting is a podcast where I'm going to give you like tips and tricks on like, what you need to eat for this condition or that condition. But nutrition is about so much more. It's about what feeds your soul, not just what feeds your body.
Yeah.
So today, what Gabi and I are going to talk about is mindset, right? Yeah. And this is something that you're really passionate about.
I love it so much. Yeah. So I'm excited to talk to you all about it.
Awesome. So what would you say, like, what does mindset mean? Like, in this context of what we're going to be talking about in the podcast, how does it relate to?
So mindset is actually just a habit that you build and something that can be worked on, and a kind of like this callus that you build over time. And by having this tool, you can navigate through life and really just have a positive and happy life, which is something that we all kind of want and strive for. But it also helps you create your reality, so you have the potential to be anything you want. You can get out there if you have the motivation, but if you have a strong mindset, you'll always have that motivation. You're never going to run out of gas. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that, because I know from like personal experience, what I've learned over time with nutrition is like, I grew up not really like, we weren't like a super healthy eating family, and in college like I was not into nutrition at all, and it was only through my health issues that I started to develop a kind of love and interest in nutrition. And over those first several years of starting to focus on diet, like it was an uphill battle to stay on that. It's so much easier to fall back into whatever's culturally sort of expected, especially down here in San Antonio, like it's really easy to just like get back into like fast food and restaurants and all the good things that are out there to eat. And so I always like felt like I was pendulum swinging. I was either like really restrictive over here or I was like really not. It took me like probably, I don't know, maybe almost a decade
Yeah.
to really feel like I kind of came into my own and developed that sort of callous, like you said, that sort of mental boundary where it was like, you know, there are things that I just don't eat anymore, that I'm just not interested in anymore. Like pizza is a great example. I never eat pizza. So everyone's gonna be like, oh, you don't eat pizza. I just don't. Like, it doesn't make me feel good. I don't like it. I just don't eat it anymore. Yeah. And there are a lot of little things like that, you know, I mean, if you want to eat pizza once in a while, like, you're not gonna.
That's fine.
It's fine. But for me, you know, it's just an example of a way that my mind has sort of hardened around this will and this determination to be a healthier person over time, to the point now where I don't even, like, I'm not tempted by certain things anymore.
Yeah.
So,
and kind of where this came about was because when I started my practice, I was running into the issue where my clients would do really well, but then they would disappear. And I always wondered, like, well, what's really going on, or why can't they stick to something? But their mind was just not in it, you know? And that's kind of where my whole mindset program started and was created. And I always experiment with myself first. So I call myself like the guinea pig, right? And I started building that callus with myself, and it's gotten me to a great place. So I know it works. You know?
Right. Well, I think there's this temptation, like, culturally, and I see this a lot on social media, to sort of look at restrictive diets in particular as if they're, like, somehow bad for you. And don't get me wrong, of course, there are situations where that's not ideal. There are situations where people take it too far.
Yeah.
There are eating disorders and all that stuff. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the average person. You know, I think the temptation is always to see the easy thing. And the easy thing is to be like, you know, oh, this is too hard, so I'm not gonna do it. You know, like, I'm gonna be interested in it for a few weeks, and then I'm gonna, like, not do it anymore because it's too hard. Maybe what we need to do is change the way that we're thinking about what's hard and what's not. You know, I think I talked about this the other day. Is like, if something makes you feel awful, or you know it's not good for you, or for a condition that you have, yet you continue to eat it because, you know, you're tempted by it, or it's easier to just, you know, go with the crowd or whatever. Like, is that really feeding your soul? Like, is that really good for you? So I just feel like there's just a lot of, you know, people are trying to pull you in different directions now, and almost pull you away from doing what's in your best interest as a person.
So you really don't know, like, which way
you don't know which way to go,
because you could be easily influenced by other people and what they say or comment. But again, if you have that mentality of you can do anything and you can accomplish anything, that hard thing that you thought was not possible to do, you switch that to, I can do it.
Yeah, and I see that all the time with clients. So one of the things you were talking about, I think this is a common issue with nutritionists, any nutritionists out there listening, is that, especially if you have people pay by the session, you get people who are, like, really into it at the beginning, and then before they really get a chance to, like, make the real changes, you know, suddenly they ghost you, and you're like, well, what happened to them? Because you were so invested in their progress, especially if you're like a healer, like both of us are. You really get invested in these people, and you want to see them do well. And that's one reason why I switched to, like, package only work, because I found that it helps people kind of create that sort of, it's like an external boundary or an external mindset of, like, okay, I paid for this, so I have to do it.
I have to, you know, follow through.
But once you get over that initial hump, like that initial span of time where things get really hard, you develop this almost callous in your mind where suddenly it's not so hard anymore, and you can keep going. And I find that my clients who get to that 6-month point, you know, their entire vision, their entire mindset around nutrition changes.
Exactly. Yeah. Now they know what to do. Now they know the tweaks, and now they know if you're in a situation, okay, let me make this adjustment and I'll still be fine.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen.
And it doesn't stop you from enjoying your life.
Exactly.
Or from interacting with people. I think people fear that, especially eating really healthy, like they're afraid that they're not going to be able to go out anymore. They're afraid that they're not going to be able to be part of family gatherings and things. I mean, I work with people who have severe chronic illness in a lot of cases. And so there is an element of that for some people where it is like, okay, we really can't eat out. But for the vast majority of the people that I work with, it doesn't stop you, at least in the long run, from enjoying your life and being part of those things. What it does stop you from is caring what other people think about your diet. Like, why does it matter if somebody really wants you to eat a piece of birthday cake? Like, why does it matter so much to you to like, quote unquote, disappoint them? It's a piece of cake. You know what I mean? So, but a lot of women, especially, they get caught up in that. Like, they don't want to offend people. They don't want to step on anyone's toes.
Yeah.
It's like,
or what I'll hear a lot too is like, well, someone, went the extra mile to make me this or to bake me or buy me, so I feel bad. And it's like, don't feel bad.
Yeah, don't feel bad.
You can give it away, or, if you really can't have it, you can, I don't know, like...
I mean, you can accept the gesture.
Exactly.
And be thankful for the gesture and feel the love of that gesture without actually eating what they gave you. Like,
if it's going to make you sick.
Can throw it away in the trash, because I guarantee you that person who made you whatever it was, they are not wanting to give you something that's going to give you diarrhea or make you feel terrible. Yes. They're not. They want to show you their love, right? And sometimes people show love in ways that, if they don't know any better, they're just trying to do a nice gesture. And so, feel that love, receive that with gratitude, and then make it work into your life. If you can have a bite of it and then throw it away, then do that. If you absolutely can't touch it, don't touch it.
Yeah.
You're not going to hurt their feelings.
Yeah.
I think people are a lot more understanding than we give them credit for. And if somebody's feelings are super hurt that you won't eat like some brownies that they made for you, like, what's going on there?
Some things.
Yeah. So there are people like that. But, so what do you think, Gabi, what do you teach your clients are the best tips to kind of maintain a strong mindset?
So the first thing that I do with my clients is have them really focus on themselves and build a really strong relationship with themselves, because that's the foundation of having a strong mindset. If you trust yourself, you're going to not doubt yourself, right? We feel like there's so many external factors going on every day. And we kind of talked about this earlier when we were getting ready for the podcast. It's like we have so many things going on a daily basis. We give so much from our cup, but are we refilling our cup? So I always focus on self-care and making sure that there's a strong foundation so that they can continue on this journey and find new things about that they like. So
yeah, I think that's really valuable. The self-care bit is something that I've been working on lately, because I'm not great at that. But it makes a big difference because, like you said, I mean, that old cliche that you can't pour from an empty cup is like so true, though. You can't. And especially when it comes to diet, I mean, diet is a form of self-care. Like, taking care of your health is a form of self-care, but it's also draining. It requires a lot of mental resources. And so if you're not refilling those sort of mental resources with rest and relaxation and vision building and all that stuff, if you don't have a solid goal or a solid reason why you're doing what you're doing, we call that finding your why. If you don't have that, then you're not likely to be successful for very long. And when it comes to aesthetics, in particular, when we're talking about like weight loss and things like that, I have found that people who are solely focused on aesthetics typically don't tend to do as well, because that vanity goal is not something that lasts for very long. It's like, it's not powerful enough. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like, I really don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to adjust your body fat percentage within a healthy range if that's what you want to do, or you want to muscle build or whatever. I mean, some people are really into that and that's fun for them, and that's fine. But you have to take time for yourself to really focus in and hone in on what your reason for doing this is. That keeps you motivated every day. The tip that I always give to my clients is to capitalize on your motivation. So there's willpower in a lot of ways, it's part of human nature to have a lot and then to burn out.
Yeah.
We do this with a lot of different things, right? So we, at the beginning of a new diet journey, are like really into it. We really want to like see all the benefits, the weight's coming off quickly, like we're feeling good, we're seeing all these things. But after about, I would say probably like a month, 2 months for most people, things start to slow down. The improvements are not as major. And it starts to actually get hard because it's like now the things that you turned away from, you know, they're looking more exciting to you and more interesting to you. So my thing that I like to do is I really like to capitalize on that early motivation. So I like to go hard. I like to go strict at the beginning because when it comes to gut health and when it comes to healing, like from autoimmune type conditions and food sensitivity and things like that, a certain level of restrictiveness is required. There's no way around that. So I like to be really strict at the beginning. That way, as your motivation starts to wane, you've already got those healthy habits built. And anything that we add, anything that we expand, that feels so good to you. You're like, oh, wow, I can have like rice again or whatever it may be, you know, and it's like exciting. Whereas if we start out having all that stuff in the diet, you know, it's not as exciting and we definitely don't enjoy taking it away after we've already been working for 3 months. So, yeah. So tell me more. Any other things about mindset?
Well, you know, I feel like even when it comes to being on a super restrictive diet for a long time, and I can speak about this because I was in a bodybuilding competition. I did that a couple years ago where I competed and I had to be super strict for 3 months. It was like 12-week prep. And now at that time, I didn't have the mindset that I have now. And even though I looked amazing, my body fat percentage was really low, I still wasn't happy. So it makes you, you know, think about, okay, what really matters? And what I've come to realize that regardless of what you're trying to achieve, it needs to become a lifestyle. And that's kind of something else that I implement with my clients when it comes to mindset. And think about the long-term goal, but also set little mini goals for yourself that you can achieve in a week or in 2 weeks so that you don't run out of motivation.
Yeah, I think that's really valuable. And with that too, thinking about the rewards for those goals, and those rewards should not necessarily be like food-based rewards either. I think we get into that habit a lot where we're like, okay,
cheat meal.
Yeah,
man, I hate
the cheat meal.
I hate that so
much. I hate it a lot too. Because like if you're the type of person that, you know, some people can do that and then they can get right back on, but most people can't. Most people, it triggers all these different
huge trigger.
It's a big trigger. And so, you know, you're already struggling with nutrition. That's why you're reaching out to a nutritionist. So you're paying good money to do these programs with these nutritionists. Why are you gonna go and set yourself back and trigger yourself and put yourself in a really dangerous situation for like the minor reward? Which I can tell you too, if you've been on a restrictive diet for a while because you're working on food sensitivity or something, and you do go have a cheat meal, the chances of you feling really terrible afterwards are really high.
It's going to happen.
Like it's not gonna feel good. So it's not gonna be what you imagine it being. But I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, little mini goals are super important.
It's really important. And you also can get inspired by looking at sometimes social media. There's great people on social media that talk about mindset or just motivational speakers. But I have my thoughts about that too. I feel like it's very male.
It's a very male-driven industry.
Yes.
That's true. You know, one of my goals eventually is, and I do some of this now, but I want to kind of expand my brand into more motivational type work, just because I think that, you know, like you're doing that too. And like we were talking about earlier, that is an industry that's so male driven. Like it's really missing a lot of female voices. I mean, there are certainly some like wonderful female, you know, motivational
But
people.
There's categories, like I was telling you earlier, there's like certain categories, and you know, there's the fitness industry, there's the entrepreneur industry, there is the spiritual industry. I mean, there's just so many different categories, and it's like, who can you find that you can relate to, like, kind of overall. And I feel like that's really where we step in, or at least I'm trying, right, to make an impact in that world, because when I started my practice, I started with my name being the name of my business, and I knew that this was going to be bigger than just me, so I named it Apollo 11. And I feel like now I'm able to branch out a little bit better to do stuff like this, because another thing that we were talking about too, like, guys need the motivation too.
Yeah.
You know, they also need the pep talk, and sometimes they will listen to women because my clients do.
Yeah. So this is where, like, her and I differ somewhat, because I don't really work with men. My calling is definitely women's health. I'm interested in women's issues. But I have worked with some men in the past, and I do have a couple of male clients right now. So if you're listening to this, don't think I don't love you, because I do. You know, men are interesting to work with. I find that I've seen two different types of men. The first type is like, I don't know why they're working with me, because all they want to do is argue with me. It's like they have trouble listening to, I think, a female telling them what to do. It's like it goes up against a lot of like old-timey stuff, like patriarchy and the lot, you know. But then there are men that I work with, and I make sure that I screen them very well, who really value that female perspective on their health. But, you know, nutrition is really kind of a feminine energy. It's a feminine profession. Not to say that there aren't great male nutritionists, but it's a feminine energy. It's a nurturing profession, because we're talking about food, and, you know, motherhood is all about food, and so in the body, and that's so very feminine. And that's beautiful. I mean, feminine energy is powerful energy too. It's not just this soft, like, demure, like, let everybody step all over me thing. Like, female energy is strong.
Yeah. And what I tell my men clients, it's like, we have to balance out that yin and yang, right? So sometimes they're, you know, get mad, or but I'm in the gym 6 times a week, and I'm eating broccoli and chicken or whatever, right? But it's like, we have to balance out your feminine side, because we all have a male and feminine side. So it's really just, when it comes to that, it's also balancing.
It's balancing. And I have women that I work with who definitely fall more on, they take more of that masculine energy in their life. You know, they're heavy exercisers, and they're doers, and they struggle with that kind of rest, relaxation, rebuilding stuff. I think it's like more common in men as a whole, but there are certainly women that do that. And, you know, I mean, female entrepreneurs, we can relate to this too, because we have a certain, like, leadership sort of capability, right? And we want to be in charge. That's why
we're hustlers.
That's right. That's why we work for ourselves, because we don't like to be told what to do. But we struggle with, like, rest and balance.
Oh man, it's been really, especially when COVID, this whole situation, being locked in the house.
Yeah.
But you know, reflecting back on COVID, that whole 3 months, what was it, like 3 months, right? I really found myself being by myself. Yeah. And I feel like it was it's almost like breaking out of the cocoon. And that's really where my mindset was the most tested, because it's like, okay, are you going to overcome this, or are you going to fall here?
Yeah. So I find that I do my best planning and my best thinking when I spend a lot of time alone like that. Like, that's when the vision really comes to me. Right. And so, and we were talking about this earlier too, that, like, you know, each of us have our own gifts when it comes to intuition, and I'm definitely an emotional intuitive. And so I'm, like, very tied into the energies and emotions of other people. So when you're like that, you have to take time alone.
You have to.
You know, because you have to, like,
it's so important. Yeah.
Separate and recharge. And if you don't, even if I'm tying this back to a person who's, you know, working on nutrition and everything, you're not taking that time for yourself and that time alone, you're going to lose sight very quickly of what you're doing this for. But when it comes to being an entrepreneur, you know, if you don't take time to just think, just not do anything, just think, you know, how are you going to move forward in your business? Like, you're going to get stuck in this wheel doing the same thing.
It's a cycle. We talk about the cycles all the time. But it really comes down to even just self-care, and self-care is so important.
Yeah. So what do you recommend for your clients to do for self-care?
So self-care, I have everyone doing a morning and a night routine. You start your day with yourself, you end your day with yourself. Again, it kind of relates back to that cup, making sure your cup is full. And it can be a variety of different things that you want to start your day off of, but really, don't check your phone.
Yeah,
That's the main one. And I challenge you, if you are listening to this, to just try to wake up. Obviously, you can turn your alarm clock off, but try not going through social media. Like the first couple of minutes of you being awake, just kind of lay there and reflect a little bit.
Yeah, that's something that I've always tried to make a point of doing. Been better at that than others sometimes, but what I always used to do in the past is like I would wake up, I would open my curtains so I could look out the window, and I just sit there and look out the window for like 5-10 minutes. And you know, I found that when I didn't do that, and when I would get lost on my phone checking stuff, it made me feel so hectic and like not at peace, you know, chaotic. Whereas if I took that 10 minutes to just like look out the window, and you could call that meditation, you know, you could even call that prayer because of the thoughts that were happening in my head. That time really grounded me and set me at ease. So lately, so as I've been talking about how I've been working with my productivity coach, Renee. Hi, Renee. Lately, she's got me doing a morning routine, like a specific morning routine. And that's really kind of taken it to another level. But, you know, I mean, that's hard too. Because, like, I don't know about you, but I do most of my social media posting, like, in the morning too. So I'm, like, finishing up thoughts and things. So we have to set those boundaries.
It's really just setting your boundaries and making sure, like, at night, put your phone on do not disturb. You know, have that.
That's important.
It's a boundary that you're setting for yourself, because you're coming back to yourself. So you want to make sure that you're spending 5-10 minutes just thinking or reflecting. Or I have some clients do things that they're grateful for, just listing them or saying them out loud. And it's just helpful. You know, you end the day on a positive note, even if your day was chaotic. So
you have to reflect on those days, the good days and the bad days. And think about, where did this day take me? What did I learn from today? What can I take into tomorrow? If you don't do that, I think you will get caught in like a spiral, just like a really weird spiral where you're not really honing in on, you know, your purpose for like living this life. Like we all have a purpose here, and we have to find it. If we don't do any reflecting, how are we supposed to find it?
Exactly.
You know? And I think what you said too about self-care, so because I get on this little soapbox of like, people are always talking about self-care as being like, do more spa days and take more bubble baths and like stupid stuff like that. But I think one of the biggest ways that we practice self-care is with boundaries, like you said, is with taking away from our life instead of adding to it, right? Because if we take away enough, then we have space to add in things that really matter to us and really benefit us. And those things don't always revolve around our work and our, you know.
And this can apply to anything, you know, like relationships, work, and really it's just saying no sometimes. And I know it's hard because if you're like me, you're like, you kind of feel bad saying no, but again, it's something that it's self-care. Like, you have to say no to protect yourself. So.
Yeah, you do. Saying no is really hard. I'm not historically good at that. I think people who get into healing professions are not good at that in general. That's one of the reasons why we do this, because it's like, you know, you have to have an open heart to help others, but that open heart can get you into trouble when you don't know how to say no.
Exactly.
So I have learned that over the years. It's like saying no more really, it's really protective. You have to be in control of this. You have to only open this heart when you feel called to open it, and not just for like every little person who wants to drain you and take from you. And that's why, like, you know, with my client base, I've started to get much more picky. I'm actually implementing a survey that people are going to have to take now to find out, just to get a vibe of them, a sense of them before I take them on as a client. Because when you work with me, and I know when you work with Gabi, like, we work together. We're invested in you. Yeah. We are part of the journey. We don't like send you off to somebody else to coach you. We coach you personally. And so that's a big commitment. It's like a relationship that we have. Like we text and we call, and there's a lot of communication between us. So, you know, we're not infallible, perfect people.
Right.
We have to protect ourselves from being drained too much by this. So, okay. Well, that was really good. So tell us a little bit about like, are there certain programs that you're working on with people? Like when people work with you, what's that process like?
So whenever you work with me, all of my programs include this mindset program that I do, that I came up with. Just because this goes hand in hand, like we were talking about in the beginning. In order for you to be successful with nutrition, your mind has to be strong. So my mindset programs are automatically integrated in all of my programs. I feel like that has been the best, or I've seen the most successful clients that way. So, yeah, it just comes integrated, and we work on that as well. So you're really getting a 2-in-1 because we're working on your mindset, and we're also working on nutrition, and then you can achieve other goals that might not be nutrition related. And that's something that I'm open to talk about too, just because I've gone through stuff too. So I feel like I can relate to a lot of things that people have going on.
Working with a functional nutritionist or a holistic nutritionist is about so much more than nutrition. You know, we help you to not only find like outside resources for other practitioners that you might need in your life, you know, like a good therapist or, you know, there are other modalities and things that we work with, but we also, you know, have our own resources and skills that we've developed throughout our life that have helped put us in this position of expertise that we can then relate to you. And so we don't take that lightly. Like we're not gonna like open up our work to just anybody. So we have to make sure too that that's part of why I at least do discovery calls. I don't know if you do.
I do.
Discovery calls, because it's like we have to
get the vibe.
Yeah, we have to see if we're going to vibe, because it's not going to be a satisfying experience for either of us if we don't vibe. So
because I mean, how long? Well, in a session, do you feel like you talk about nutrition the whole entire time?
No. So Gabi and I, whenever we talk, we're always laughing because we always end up being counselors for our clients. And like, you know, obviously not a trained mental health therapist. I know some great ones if you need recommendations. But I think nutrition is the gateway drug to all of the other holistic modalities. It's the thing that's the most grounded and feels the most comfortable for the most people. Nutrition's very safe, right? You're not going to be scared of going to see a nutritionist unless, you know, I mean, you might be scared for other reasons, but you're not like going to be like, ooh, this is too woo-woo for me, like this nutritionist, you know? So we help introduce you to the ways that, you know, energy and other things and mental health play into your health. And then that kind of opens you up to this world of experiences that you've never had before. But what happens is that a lot of times we get people coming into us because they need a therapist, but they're too afraid to go see one, or they don't want to go see one, right? So they're the type of people that use their doctor or their nutritionist as their therapist.
Right.
So most of the sessions are not really all about nutrition. I mean, we do talk about nutrition, but we also talk about life. We talk about what's going on. We talk about pain and trauma. All these things are part of your health and part of why you eat the way you do, part of why you react to food the way you do.
And I think that's something that really separates us from a lot of other people, perhaps, is that we really get to the root. Like, we really dig deep. So that we can heal from getting down to the root instead of just putting a Band-Aid or covering it up. Right.
I mean, and this is why I have started to specialize, is because I got tired of people coming to me purely just to lose weight. As a nutritionist, you often start out in weight loss because it's sort of the easiest way to get your foot in the door. And then you build up a clientele, and eventually you can kind of specialize. And so weight loss is fine. I like helping people lose weight if that's something that's really important to them and they really need to do. I like seeing transformations. I mean, I know that there's various opinions about whether you should put transformations up or not. I'm a big fan of transformations. I love all that stuff, but it's also not, it's here. It's not up here. You know, it doesn't fulfill me or my client really, because it's about so much more than weight. So when you work with us, you're not working on just like your macros. Yeah. You know, you're not just like, okay, you need to eat this, this, and this, and like that's it. Yeah, exactly. It's about a lot more than that. So
you have to be ready. And that's what I tell a lot of people, especially when I do my discovery calls. It's like, this is an investment for you. Mm-hmm. You have to be ready to take this step.
Yeah, you do have to be ready. You have to be open. Mm-hmm. If you coming into it with preconceptions of what it's going to be like, or you know, if you're not ready to really embrace it, then what's going to end up happening is there's going to be a push and pull between us. That's going to be very unsatisfying for both of us. Yeah. So, you know, usually I think as practitioners, we get good at figuring out if somebody's really ready or not. Yeah. But the last thing I want to do is have somebody invest in a program and then we're stuck together for a certain period of time and they're not really ready to do the work and they're not really interested in listening to what I have to say. It's like, you know, that gets to some deeper issues. Yeah. So anyway, if people want to find you to work with you, where do they find you, Gabi?
So my website, I'm actually redoing my website.
Are you?
But I don't know when this is going to go up. Okay. So my new website should be up in November. Okay. So my new
this
website,
will probably come out in November.
Right? Mm-hmm. It's going to be www.apollo-11.com. You can also find me on Instagram. This is Apollo11. And if you want to follow my mindset Instagram, it's called Mental Game Strong.
Mental Game Strong.
Mental Game Strong.
Stay strong. So tell us really quickly, because I know people are going to wonder, what does Apollo 11 mean? Where did that come from?
So Apollo 11, oh my goodness, it's a beautiful creation. But just quickly, it's actually Apollo is dedicated to my grandfather. His name was Apolinar in Spanish. In English, it's Apollo. He passed away of colon cancer. So I discovered that I'm really passionate about digestive health, and I want to help all of my clients make sure that they're not only good externally but internally as well. So that's where that piece came from. And 11 was actually synchronicities. Yeah. And how my mindset program came about. And it's really just following your intuition, following your gut feeling, and knowing that you are on the right path, but you have to work. Yeah. You have to do the work.
You have to do the work. And that's the hard part. So, okay, well, this was really good. I enjoyed this a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Yeah. Gabi is, like I said, a great friend of mine, and we have so much fun together. And I'm sure she'll be on the podcast again. Maybe she'll make her own podcast.
Maybe.
You never know. If she does, I'll let you guys know. But if you have questions for I keep kicking this. If you have questions for the podcast, please send me an email at anamberadaypodcast@gmail.com. I'm happy to answer any of your nutrition, fertility, whatever questions on the air, anything that I have expertise on. And you help give me ideas, so I do appreciate every email that I get. And if you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram at Amber Fisher Nutritionist, and that's the main place where you can find me. But yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. All right. Bye, we're going to close things up today. Bye.